Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. It's a podcast for all women out there who are following their dream or their goal of making money and a living doing something that they love. You know, setting up your own small business, something that you've always dreamed of because it is possible. I've done it and I'm here to talk about everything to do with starting a small business and running one as well. So whether you're just thinking about it, maybe you've already started or maybe you've been doing it a while, welcome. And I hope that you find the things that I talk about in this podcast interesting, helpful and relatable, because that's my goal. Whatever I talk about, I always try and make it relatable to, us normal women out there that just want to be happy. We're not greedy. We just want to be doing something that we love, that fits around our families and our lifestyle. It can be done. And I want everybody to know that it can be done. So today's episode, it's a good one, or at least I think it is. And I was compelled to record it after returning from a mini break last week to the Yorkshire coast. It's been a long time since we've had a little holiday as a small family. And it had been a long time coming. It really had, for numerous reasons. But being away, it gave me the headspace that I'd needed for a long time. It's everything that I've been craving for. So I thought that I would take this opportunity to talk today on the episode about the importance of taking a break and taking a step back from our businesses and our lives from time to time. Because it's the only way that we can boost our productivity and come back better and more brilliant than before. Because sometimes our flame, it isn't flickering as strong as it should be, I think. Rather than letting it get snuffed out by everything that's going on around us, everything that's surrounding us day in, day out. Instead, we need to be nurturing that flame. We need to be protecting it and sheltering it and giving it the chance to burn just as bright as it did in the beginning when it was first ignited. When you start a business or you start a new venture, you're full of excitement, aren't you? You're full of all these hopes and dreams, and sometimes it dwindles, it wades, and it's normal because you're plugging away at something and it might not be immediate. Things might not happen for you immediately, but they will happen. They will happen. But in between those moments, when you're uncertain and you're unsure if it's going to work, they're the actual times that you do need to take a step back. And I think a lot of us with small businesses worry that if we step back and take a break, that, it won't be there when we return. That a week away from social media, or say putting our Etsy shops on holiday mode, or having an out of office on your email, for example, it's going to destroy the last few weeks, months, years, or however long it's been since you set up your business and you last took a proper break. You're worried that you're just going to drop off the face of the earth if you dare take that week off. You won't, I promise you. I was also inspired to record this episode about the importance of taking a step back after a recent meeting, actually, with a psychologist lady who comes to see my daughter. She's helping us with a few transitional issues, getting her into school this coming September. And she's been absolute godsend. She's been amazing. She's a lovely lady. She's got a heart of gold. And to be honest, she's been a real emotional support to me as well as my daughter. And she's helped her overcome a lot of social anxieties that she's had. And she's been there for me, as an extra person in our village, because you know what they say when you've got kids, it takes a village to raise a child. And not all of us have a village, big one or any at all. So it does make a huge difference when someone extends a hand out for you to hold, doesn't it? And that's what this lady does for me on a regular basis. But anyway, we were talking a couple of weeks ago and I was telling her about this little mini break that we've got coming up on the coast and just how much I felt like every inch of my body was calling out for it and my mind. And she looked at me. I must have looked pretty beaten and knackered at this point because she just put her hand on my arm and she said to me, "Joanne, you just need to go away and recharge your social battery." And that really hit the spot with me. Like those words, the social battery, they just summed up everything that I was feeling and what I was feeling that I needed right there and then. And I just thought it was a genius way to describe the burnout that we often feel when we run a business and in life in general. It's hard. It's really hard. And I wanted to use this idea in today's episode to talk about your social battery and how you can identify the signs, that it needs recharging. Because it's so important for your physical and your mental health to make sure that it is fully charged. And I also wanted to talk about how to overcome the guilt of taking time off when you work for yourself, the positive impacts of taking a break, the different ways that you can recharge, because, it's not all about going away. There are times that it's not possible or we can't afford it, but it doesn't mean that we can't recharge. In fact, we need to do it even more if this is the case. So we need to also look at how we've got a healthy work-life balance, which is difficult again when you work for yourself. And also how actually taking that break from your business can make you more money in the long run. And we'll discuss exactly how and why this is possible. So keep listening to find out my theory on this. So I love this whole concept of a social battery. It's the idea that we've got this power source. It's getting constantly drained on a daily basis, from numerous different sources, like the apps of life, I like to call it. They're all running at once there in the background, aren't they? And zapping all of your power. Sometimes I don't even make it till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm done. Like, I am so tired. Like, all my makeup's come off because I've been rubbing my face all day. I'm tired. Sometimes my little girl will say to me, "Oh, mummy, you look so tired and all your makeup's come off." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm knackered. I'm absolutely knackered. And I can't make it to bedtime." I think, how am I going to do it? But obviously you do. You have to. But I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be feeling that out of energy by that time in the day. And I think it's really important to identify the fact that, we need to plug in sometimes to recharge. And the problem is, I don't know about you, but we're not always able to plug in for as long as we'd like to fully recharge. It's like when you've got your phone, if this happens to you, but you notice that your phone, say, has only got like 15% battery remaining or something, but you're running out the door in 10 minutes because you've got somewhere to be. So you're thinking, "Oh God, quick, I've got to charge it. I've only got 10 minutes. So you grab a cable for a quick charge, a boost, you shove it in. Maybe you get it to like 35% or so, and then you hurriedly yank it out again and rush out the door. And then when you get home, a couple of hours later, you find that your battery's back on 10%, it's dwindling fast. So you do the same again, and you quickly charge it for 30 minutes, before the kids start bugging you and want to watch bloody YouTube on it or something. Or you've got to answer some work emails and some messages. So you never really get full charge. And I think that your social battery is exactly the same as this. You might get an hour here and there, if you're lucky. I don't even think I get that some days. To sit in silence. Sometimes you don't have to speak to another human being. It's lovely, isn't it, when you can just have that time for yourself. Or maybe you live for the weekends where you can just switch off a little in between checking your orders, and doing the food shop, whatever it is. Well, the point is, I think what we tend to do as a whole is just boost our battery and our power source whenever and wherever we can, and whenever the opportunity allows. But we're never fully charged. We're never in the green, are we? We're never like firing on all cylinders and ready to bounce around like the Duracell bunny. I wish. But you might be finding that you have been feeling a certain way lately, and maybe your business or even life sometimes, as awful as it sounds, but it's not exciting you as much as it should. If you're worrying excessively, you're procrastinating, all these signs are things that indicate you may need to take a step back. And I'm going to talk more about common signs to look out for, which may indicate that your social battery needs recharging. So you might want to grab a pen and paper and get ready to write them down. Just see how many actually you can identify with, because you might be surprised. Because we just keep going, don't we? We just have to keep going because there's so much going on in our lives and we don't stop to actually look after ourselves. And it's so easy to burn out when you're self-employed. You're running the whole show. And sometimes you're running more than one show, especially if you have another job, you work alongside running your business as well. Maybe you're a carer or you have other people relying on you. It's hard. It's hard work to keep all those plates spinning. And I know how hard it is to step away, trust me. You know, I've been feeling like this for a long time, since I started my businesses many, many years ago. And we often feel guilty about it. So I also want to touch on what you can actually do to prepare for some time off if you're self-employed, just so you can enjoy it guilt-free. Because when you come back to it and you're fully recharged and you've not had like a half-assed 10-minute quick Facebook scroll, or you're hanging the washing out, prepping tea, that does not count as a legitimate break. You know, they are not activities that will recharge your social battery. Sitting down for 10 minutes and scrolling Facebook does not count. Okay, say no, nor does prepping tea, hanging the washing out. I'm guilty of it. I always think, oh, I've had a break. I've hung the bedding out this morning. Well, it's not a break, is it? It's something that has to be done. But, you know, if we can actually find something that fully recharges us, we will actually feel so much more ready and able and clearer about what it is we want to achieve and what we're doing and where we want to be. So I'm also going to be sharing a few tales with you from my trip last week, which is going to either make you laugh or cry. I don't know, depending on how emotionally vulnerable you're feeling. But I think being away and going through certain things really made me realise what I need to be doing more of and less of equally to avoid these fast charges of my social battery. You know, instead make sure that I'm getting a full charge of energy that will keep me going without any other need to keep plugging in. Because more than anything, it's annoying, isn't it? So as entrepreneurs, like I said, it's crucial for us to take breaks to recharge. And especially us creative people. You know, our brains work very differently, I think, and we can get overloaded quite quickly. And I don't know about you, but I often suffer from creative block. And I just go blank. Like, it's a bit like writer's block. So I don't sometimes know like what I'm trying to do or how to do it. And I think, like, why? What is wrong with me? I cannot get my head around something. And maybe I want to develop a new product and I sort of know what I want to do, but I can't get my ideas out. Or maybe I have no clue whatsoever on what I want to do. And it's so frustrating. It's like some kind of creative limbo or something, or like a Bermuda Triangle that you just can't get out of. And you can just feel like your sense of self totally disappearing. And I think the constant engagement and interactions with people, you know, both online and in the real world, it just drains your energy and your creativity. It's like one thing that I couldn't wait to get away from last week was the bloody school run, right? I mean, for the parents out there that obviously do school runs or have ever done them, you know what it's like. Every day you see the same faces at the same time doing the same thing every damn day, right? And I just wanted to not see them just for a few days. I wanted to be missing, you know, where they say to themselves, oh, we're not seeing that redhead this morning with a daughter on a scooter. You know, that little girl is usually wearing her winter woolies in the height of summer and with the bare legs out and sandals in the winter, because that's my child. She's that one. And I wanted to make them wonder where we were. Like, sometimes it just annoys me for absolutely no rhyme or reason that the same lady and the same dog turn the corner of our street the second we step out the front door. You know, I'm just like, oh God, like, there's just no change. Every morning's the same. It's like Groundhog Day. I was fed up with it. And actually, irritability is a really common sign of burnout or social exhaustion. And I know that that's one of my main signs and the alarm bells that go off to alert me that my social battery needs recharging. I know that that is a huge one for me. I get really tetchy, you know, everything starts to bug me. And I know at that point I need to take a step back and do something for me. Other common signs that you might be able to relate to, here you might want to grab your pen and paper here, are lack of inspiration. You know, like when you feel that creative block, you don't know, like I said before, what you want to do or how you're going to do it. You just don't feel particularly inspired. Decreased productivity. Maybe it's taking you 10 times longer than it normally would to do something, you know, or maybe you just don't even want to do it in the first place. That's pretty common as well. You just can't get motivated enough to do it. Feeling overwhelmed, like it's just all a bit too much and you can't cope. And that can go, again, for in business and in life. You know, there's too much going on all the time. Maybe you procrastinate a bit You're putting off making decisions, or you're talking yourself out of them completely. These are all common signs of burnout and exhaustion. And if you're experiencing any of them to like a noticeable degree, it really might be worth considering planning some time out. So before you shout at the old lady passing, walking a dog at the exact same time you step out the front door every day. I didn't shout at her, by the way. But I did once shout at a man in a bakery, right, who pushed in and he stole the last egg custard, right, that I was going to buy for my mum, who was going through chemo at the time. And I was very angry, to be fair, it was probably a bit out of line. But I've never forgotten that. And he probably hasn't either, to be fair, if he's still alive. He was quite elderly, which made me feel even worse. But it was a bad day. My battery was almost dead by that point. But, maybe you can identify with one or all of the emotions that I've just talked about. And you can decide whether or not you need to take a step back too. But, how do we do it if we can't afford a breakaway and we can't afford to disappear for a few days? That might be something that's not possible for you right now. It wasn't possible for me for the last 2 years. And I've struggled. So instead, you need to find a way that fully recharges you. So I was talking about stopping these constant quick plug-ins. And it's got to be with a view to it creating a positive impact on your well-being and your work. I know I try to do short daily breaks if I can. Honestly, they don't work very well for me. So I really have tried going for a walk in the day. I go in my garden for half an hour, whatever, doing some gardening, a bit of pottering. I'm like a secret green-fingered geek, honestly. I love gardening. I can get lost out there for hours. But I found that that's just not quite enough for me. It doesn't really work for me in terms of fully recharging me because I think there's just too many distractions when I'm around my house or my local area, trying to recharge, because I always find that someone will always stop me for a chat, maybe that I meet out, or a neighbour will collar me for half an hour and I can't get away. So that time that I've put aside to recharge gets sucked in by something or somebody else every single time. My phone buzzes. And even if it doesn't, I'm checking it because I'm worried that school are going to ring and I've got to go and pick my little girl up. So I never like to have it on complete silence. So for me, I know that I need to remove myself from my home, which is also my place of work, as it will be for a lot of other women listening to this who are self-employed. Because a lot of us work from home, whether it be in a dedicated office space or at your kitchen table, whatever. Your home and your workspace sort of coexist, and it's quite difficult. So for me, I like to remove myself from my house and get away or out to recharge. And obviously, if you can't afford to go away and have a break, I tend to find just taking myself to a park or a coffee shop outside of my local area, somewhere I get in the car and I drive to, where I know I can spend a good couple of hours, without muttering another word to another person. Apart from the words, I'll have one latte and one pan au chocolat, please. These are the only acceptable words that will leave my lips when I'm having a full recharge. But maybe you can do some hobbies that are unrelated to work. Scheduling time with friends, if you find that's how you recharge that way. It's not always about being alone. Just do whatever works for you to hit that reset button. And, there are so many benefits of taking a break. And of course, there are some inevitable and stressful things to deal with. Like, when you're self-employed and you take a break, you cut off your income. That's it. The second you close your shop and you say that you're closed, you've got no money coming in. And yes, you're going to lose sales and you're going to lose some customers for a short while. We have to remember that it's all temporary. You're not dropping off the face of the earth for good. You're taking a break when you need it. And you will find that actually it leads to improved mental health, increased creativity. You'll be able to solve problems better. You'll look at things through different eyes again and be generally a lot happier. And I'm not just saying that, there's actual scientific evidence to support this. There's a doctor that I actually follow on Instagram. I can't remember her name. If I do, I will put it in the show notes of this episode. But she talks a lot about the effects of stress and trauma on our body. And she says like how when we go through these traumatic things in life, our body releases stress hormones like cortisol, which are there for a reason because they help keep us alert and prepared and ready for action. And that's why they're there. So it's important that our body releases those hormones in order to survive. However, once they're in our system, they're really hard to sort of get rid of and like wind down from. And she says that when we need to slow down and take a break, our body then initiates a process called nervous system regulation, which is basically like hitting the reset button. And it tries to sort of get rid of all those hormones out of our body. And she says that this is why we get tired a lot. Once we relax, we're getting tired because then we feel safe. So our body no longer needs to release those hormones. It no longer is relying on them for survival. And we've gone into safe mode. But that exhausts us. So if you've constantly got levels of cortisol and stress hormones in your body, you're constantly going to be fighting to get rid of them if you're always stressed, and you're going to feel tired and exhausted. And I think that's why it is so important to take regular breaks so that we don't get this build up all the time, because life is stressful. She says that when we feel safe and we do feel this tiredness, it's like you're saying, it takes a few days for us to wind down. Mum used to say that on holiday all the time. She'd go, "You're so tired because it takes a few days for your body to wind down." Well, she was right. She was always right. But particularly she was right about that, because your body's finally let its guard down and it's regulating. And this regulation, it makes us happier, it makes us clearer, and it leads to positive mental health. And I'm actually a really good example of this from something that I experienced on our trip last week. So to be honest with you, I always say this podcast is about being honest. I never really hide anything. But I'd forgotten what it felt like to be excited and happy and calm about something, because honestly our family have had so much shit thrown at us over the past few years, and I was becoming worried that I wasn't capable of feeling these emotions anymore. That they become so deeply buried by this huge pile of crap that has landed on our doorstep that I was worried that I would never experience them again. I couldn't see a way to feel like that again. And, as a family, we do defy the odds. They're never the good odds, always the bad ones. And I know that my sister won't mind me talking about this, but a lot of you may know who know us. We have recently gone through an operation to reduce our risk of breast cancer, as we have a dodgy gene, we like to call it. So we've undertook a huge surgery to have our breasts removed and reconstructed using tissue from our other body parts. And we did it obviously to protect ourselves in the future. And we lost our mum from breast cancer, and everything it's just been to do with that. And we just wanted it out of our lives. So we took that decision. Myself was 3 months ago, my sister's was last year, so that we didn't have to think about it again. But then the unthinkable happened. And a couple of weeks before my surgery in March, we found out that my sister has got breast cancer. And after going through this huge surgery, she had double mastectomy, a reconstruction from her thighs and her legs. The cancer started in her armpit. And it is almost unheard of. Even the consultant said to her, after 35 years of practicing, he's never known it. I think it's something like 1%. It happens to 1% of people. It's ridiculously unlucky. And it has shook our confidence like you wouldn't believe. Just when we were thought that we were rid of this absolute nightmare, we're reliving it again. And honestly, it's been a lot. And I know that Emma, my sister, she listens to my podcast. Bless her. Thank you, Em. And she listens when she's having a chemo. And I know that she's not going to mind me talking about this, because we actually just had a conversation before I recorded this episode about how important it is to raise awareness that this can still happen. And, you must always be vigilant with your body. You really must. I mean, obviously I'm digressing a little bit here, but it's important. It's important that women, especially if you're listening to this, check your breasts, please. Check everywhere, armpits, just please keep on top of your body, because you just don't know. And Emma, she's my hero, and I know she's listening. So I love you. I'm so proud of you, and I'll be there soon to see you. So, as I said, I know I digressed a little bit there, but it's relevant, and it illustrates that even in such dark times, the break that I had last week, it helped me. It helped me to feel those emotions again that I thought had gone for good. I actually felt happy. I felt calm when I was there. And I felt them. I think it was on the second night, my body was winding down. And I was sat in our outdoor area. My daughter was in bed and I was alone. And it was just still. And the area that we were staying in, there's something called a dark sky reserve. I'd never heard of it before. But it's places that are all over the UK where they keep light pollution really low, so that you can do stargazing, and you can even see the Milky Way, apparently. We had quite a lot of clouds, so I didn't manage to see that. But again, admittedly, a bit of a geek, when it comes to astronomy, I don't know, I'm just drawn to like space and planets and stars. I love it. I love the idea of there being like another galaxy out there. Anyway, excuse me, it was so utterly peaceful and calm. And I could literally feel my social battery going up. And I felt so alive. And I remember texting my sister and saying that too. I said, I feel alive here. Like, I could feel those feelings again. I was excited about our barbecue the next day. Somehow we had sunshine, like when it seems like the rest of the UK last week was underwater. So we were lucky. Surprisingly, we were lucky. But I was excited. I was excited to go on adventures. We went fossil hunting, which was so cool, on like a secluded beach. Honestly, I had never felt so free, not for a really long time. Every little thing we did, like, boosted my battery day by day, and even hour by hour. Every little coffee and cake and paddle in the sea and like breath of fresh air and blow from the wind, because bloody hell, it's windy on the Yorkshire coast, isn't it? Really windy. Everything that we did boosted my battery. And I instantly just felt happier. And I got on the balcony the last night. I got my notepad out and I made a plan. I made a plan for my businesses and my future. And it was something on my mind that I wasn't really sure which direction to go with next, with different, with Her Handmade Hustle, what to do, how to implement all my ideas. And having this time away and this clarity really did help me. And then I came away with a strategy and it helped me to stay focused. I felt less confused. I felt less scared, actually, and I felt more creative in my ideas, and things came to me that actually hadn't come to me before because I had that clear mind. And I've been struggling for a while, but having that space, both physically and mentally, it just seemed to put an end to this block that I'd been experiencing. And that night, the ideas just came to me. I sat there with a glass of wine and wrote them all down. And honestly, I returned last week feeling happier and just much more capable to manage whatever the rest of the year has in store for us. And hopefully it's only going to get better. Please God. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's honestly so true. There's something about being back in nature or in peaceful surroundings. It helps us recharge properly. And it was just reinforced more when we were on our last night and we headed back to one of my favourite places, Harrogate, for a stopover in an old pub on the way home. And it was weird because as we started to approach the town, the noise came. The traffic was bad. Our moods just instantly changed. And honestly, we had a really pretty bad last day and night. It was just one of those days, you just have to write it off, I think. We had a meal in the pub that we were staying in. And everything just went wrong. One thing, the day starts out like that, everything else just goes wrong, doesn't it? There's no going back sometimes. I choked on my bloody pizza, which was great, obviously. I inhaled like a bit of burnt crust or something. So then I had this massive coughing fit at the table. We had these people sat next to us that just kept staring at us, making it a hell of a lot worse. I'm there trying to find a drink, trying to like cough that I wasn't feeling great to my husband. He was there shoving steak down his throat, like completely oblivious of the fact that I was choking. So that was fun. And then mid-choke, my daughter then announces that she desperately needed a poo. And I have to go now, mummy now, take me to the toilet. So I'm there coughing my way, trying to find the nearest toilet. My eyes were streaming. Dealt with the toilet episode. And then I came back to a cold pizza and some very, very judgy stares from the table next door. And then just to top it all off, when I wasn't looking, my daughter licked the dregs of my red wine out of my glass, which wasn't ideal and resulted in a lot of shouting. And yeah, it just didn't go very well at all. We had to make a swift exit back to our room about 8 o'clock at night when everybody fell asleep. And that was the end of that. So it was just really stressful. And overall, I would say that my social battery probably dropped about maybe 80-90% after the last night. But it just proves that exposure and continual exposure to these stressful situations really will have a detrimental effect on your work and your well-being. And I know they're unavoidable, it's life. But it just stresses the importance of making sure that we take regular breaks in order to deal with it and regulate it. So, like I mentioned, taking a break, it can actually be so beneficial to your business. It really can. And you can come back to it more creative, more inspired, clearer, fresher, better, just more capable. And all of these things are going to help you get yourself back on track, boost your business, and make a real go of it. So let's talk quickly about how you stop feeling so guilty when you take time off, especially when it's much needed. Unfortunately, when you're self-employed, it is stressful. It's wrought with anxiety, isn't it? When you take time off and guilt because you think you should be there. You should be always there, available for everybody all the time. Well, no, you can't be. It's not right and it's not healthy. And you need to take time away as well. And there are a few things that you can do to overcome this guilt, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But first and foremost, I think the most important thing that we have to do is we've got to change our mindset. And we need to start seeing breaks as an investment in our business. A refreshed mind, a fresh mind and body, it leads to better work output. So changing our mindset, stop seeing it as something you should feel bad about, and instead seeing it as an investment will help us massively in feeling less guilty. So if you've got a short break planned, here are my 6 top tips. I think there's 6 here for ensuring that it's guilt-free, okay? And the first one, probably, if you can, most important, plan it carefully. So maybe you can pick a quieter time so that you don't miss too much work, or too many opportunities while you're away. Like, for example, with Vintage Tweed, I deal with weddings. So wedding season is not great for me as a rule, which is generally like between February and July. And I've just come back, but I'm not actually working with Vintage Tweed at the minute. I'm still off after my operation. But normally, the good time for me is September. It's quieter. So I try and pick around that time of year to take a break, so I don't miss weddings and too many things going on. Plus, I get a bit of a break before the Christmas rush as well. If you can't pick a quieter time, maybe you're busy all year round, try and close a few days early to finish off and just deal with any last minute requests, because I don't know about you, but I always get somebody the couple of days before I'm about to go on holiday that needs something desperately right now, yesterday, and I end up rushed off my feet and packing at the same time. It just happens every single time. I've always got an order last minute to do, no matter how organised I am. Number 2, you need to accept that you're going to be poor when you get back. Okay, any time off when you're self-employed means you are going to lose money, and you're going to come back and your bank balance will be either very, very low, possibly in the red. That's just the way it is. Accept it. We're going to build it back up again. Number 3, see if you can line up some work or some orders for when you get back. I always find it really helpful to try and book people in or book orders in, so that I know that when I come back, there's stuff there waiting for me. And it's okay, just go away and tell them that they are first on your list to contact as soon as you're home, and make a list so that you know the people that you want to chase when you get back. So you've got work ready for you. Because I also think it helps you adjust back to work quicker too. So when you come back, it's that horrible feeling, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you work for yourself or you don't, but you still get that dread and a bit of nerves that you've got to turn on your shop again and you've got to be available and start work. So if you can have sort of work lined up ready for when you come back, I think it does help with that transition of being normal again, if you like. And number 4, notify people that you're away. So set an out of office, an automated reply. It will just take that stress away. So when you are actually there, you know that you've got like a virtual assistant, answering people's emails so that you don't have to worry. And they know that you're just taking a break and you're not ignoring them. Number 5, which I think is an important one, don't get FOMO. Okay, fear of missing out. You're not going to miss anything, I promise. Okay, you won't cause irreversible damage to your business, just go. Like, just go. Seriously, it sounds awful, but no one will miss you for a week. Yeah, just go. Have fun. And number 6, I think you have to forgive yourself if you have to do a little bit of work while you're away. You might want to. I mean, I enjoyed getting my notepad out on the last night and writing down some ideas and strategies and a plan. I mean, I'm a planner anyway, and I always feel better when I've got things written down on paper. But it is the nature of the beast when you work for yourself. You know, we don't have the luxury of submitting a holiday request form and then disappearing off into the sunset. You know, when we can never be just totally uncontactable until we rack up back in the office, all rested and tanned. That's not how it works when you're self-employed. So I think by forgiving yourself when you do have to check your emails, not saying all the time, but maybe after a couple of days, you might need to follow something up or just attend to an issue. And that's absolutely fine. If you say that that's okay to yourself and you set your boundaries and that's all you want to do, then you'll probably find that you don't feel guilty about it. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge that taking any kind of time off when you work for yourself is stressful. You know, it isn't just like you can switch off. And that is one of the sacrifices that we make for being in full control of our own work life. You know, it is loaded with anxiety and money worries. And I think if you prepare as much as you can in advance for trips and time off by, you know, following some of those steps, I think you'll feel more confident stepping away from the helm of your ship and taking that much needed break. And you know what? It doesn't mean that you can't also be spontaneous when you're self-employed, because sometimes you might just want to seize an opportunity to get away for a couple of nights or a week or whatever, whenever you can. And we've got that freedom to do that. I mean, why the hell else are we doing this if it's not to enjoy the flexibility that you get only from working for yourself? You know, these spontaneous things that we can do are the reason why we're doing it. And it's one of the main reasons why I do it. So I think I might have mentioned this in one of my earlier podcast episodes, but I thought it was a nice story to finish on because it's all about taking advantage of the fact that you work for yourself as well as taking a break. And it was a few days after I had a really bad breakup with somebody, and I was sat in my parents' garden. I think I must have been about 29 or 30, so 10 years ago maybe. And my mum and dad were going on holiday to Portugal that weekend. And I was like absolutely distraught by this breakup with this man who I'd been with for about a year, and he just dumped me by text. Like, I know, can't believe people still did that in their 30s, but he did. Anyway, he was a total arse, but at the time I was absolutely devastated. And I remember being sat with my mum in the garden, who was, you know, as all mums are, she was just struggling seeing me so upset. She absolutely, I could just see it in her face, and she didn't know what to do. She didn't want to leave me, even though I was like, you know, 30 years old. And I remember being sat there, and she just went really quiet for a few minutes. And then all of a sudden she just looked at me. She said, "Do you think that you could get all your vintage tree orders done in the next couple of days?" I looked at her and I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I'm going to go to the travel agent now, and I'm going to see if he can get you on a flight to Portugal with me and Dad, and you can come on holiday with us and have a week away. Have a break from it all because you need it." And my first thought in that moment was, absolutely not. I was like, there is no way, Mum, that I can just down my tools and go, because this was when I just joined Not on the High Street, and we were getting about, maybe 80 orders a week. Me and Mum were getting through them together. But then I thought about it, and I just thought, oh my God, like, I've got a chance here. I've got an opportunity to get out, get a bit of sun, recharge, have a break. I've been working really hard. I'd had this awful breakup. And I thought, why the hell not? Like, I could do it. I didn't have to ask anybody. If I could work hard enough, I could do it. I know I wanted a week in the sun. I wanted to rest and recharge. I wanted to nurse my broken heart. So I said yes. I said, okay, let's do it. And I went straight home and I worked solidly for the next, I think it was 2 or 3 days, whatever. Got everything made, got everything shipped out. I closed my shops online, my Etsy shop, my Not on the High Street shop, my website. I packed my suitcase and I was gone. And actually, it was really liberating. It was so nice to just close up and go and disappear on an aeroplane for a week. And honestly, I am so glad that I did it, because it was actually the last holiday that I ever had with my mum. And it is still one of the kindest things that anyone has ever done for me to this very day. And I'm so glad that I went and I took that opportunity when it was presented to me. So yeah, that's it for today. Talking about taking a break. I hope you've enjoyed it. And maybe you can save this episode and you could listen to it again before any trips that you've got planned. You know, the summer's coming up, maybe you've got some time off booked, and it'll just help you manage any worries that you might be experiencing before you go and you leave your ship for a short while. Next week, we are talking, we're getting a bit more back down to business. We're going to be talking about SEO for small businesses, SEO being search engine optimization. And we are going to be looking at basically how to get your business found on Google using keywords. And actually, I'm going to be sharing with you an experience from something that I did a few weeks ago before I went away. I did a little experiment, which I'll be telling you about in the next episode. But honestly, my website went from not being found on Google at all for 8 months to being on page 1 in just 4 weeks. I'm going to talk about exactly how I did it next week, so make sure you're listening for that, as well as letting you know about an opportunity and a brand new service about how I can also help you do the same for your business and your website. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be back again next week for more business talk. Like I say, a bit more serious next week, talking SEO. So please do come back, and it's been lovely talking today, and have a brilliant day, whatever you're doing. Take care. Bye-bye.